Hello, listeners. Welcome to a special podcast powered by ENS. My name is David Esiedu. I'm a disputes partner in the Ghana office of ENS. We will be discussing perhaps the splendid seven of business and investment topics in East Africa, particularly in relation to Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. In this session, we will focus on Uganda, and we're doing a whistle-stop tour of the economic landscape, industry-specific trends, the foreign investment climate, legal considerations for doing business, technology and innovation, sustainability and ESG, and the outlook for the future. And our guest is Rachel Musoke. As a lawyer, Rachel specializes in banking and finance, project finance, and real estate, among others. In addition, Rachel heads up the Uganda office of ENS. Rachel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, David. It's lovely to be here with you today.
It's lovely to have you, Rachel. So, Rachel, Uganda, especially Kampala, is famous for parties and safaris to see the monkeys. In fact, a travel website says this: Uganda is the dream destination for those in search of the absolute pinnacle of primate safaris. That's huge. But a little bird whispered to me to ask you about food. So, Rachel, tell us what's nice and flavorful about Ugandan cuisine.
Interesting, David. But good question. Uganda has some of the most tasty food in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And the best part is that a lot of it grows naturally in our backyards. I'd say the most popular staple food is the green banana, known as matoke. And this is steamed in the banana leaves themselves and then mashed and can be served with any sauce like meat, chicken, fish, beans, or more famously, the groundnut sauce. I'll tell you that whenever I return home from a trip abroad, everyone at home knows that that is the first meal that I expect to see.
Brilliant. Sounds like that's another reason for anybody to go to Uganda.
For sure.
Let's jump straight to the first question then about the economic landscape, Rachel. What's the current economic climate in Uganda and how is it affecting local and foreign businesses?
So Uganda's economy has been resilient. It's been steadily recovering from both internal and external shocks over the past 4 years, including, as you would imagine, the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to estimates from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, our GDP expanded in the financial year 2023-24 with an estimated growth rate of 6%, and this is up from 5.3% in the preceding financial year. This 6% growth is notable when compared to Sub-Saharan Africa's projected average growth rate of 3.8% for this year.
It is indeed. So let me just kind of segue into the next question about what are the most significant economic trends you have observed in Uganda over the past year?
The services sector, that's tourism, wholesale and retail trade, telecoms, transport and real estate, are really the largest contributors to our GDP, followed by industry and then the agricultural sector. There are other factors that have supported our strong economic growth, and some of these are low inflation. There's been increased investment in the oil and gas sector, and we have seen higher demand for Uganda's agricultural and industrial products. And then, of course, our resurgence in tourism following the COVID-19 pandemic.
Interesting. So that's kind of a combination of the hot industries and also the hot sectors you've seen driving growth and also the significant economic trends. It doesn't tell us the local investment versus foreign investment relationship. So what's the current state of foreign investment in Uganda in all these sectors you've kind of described as hot and driving growth?
So, David, the best way to describe the state of foreign investment in Uganda is to share that Uganda was recently awarded the best investment destination in Africa at the AIM Investment Awards this
Well
year.
done. I'm clapping to
Thank
that.
you. Thank
Up
you.
Uganda.
Yes, and this was for attracting some of the most significant FDI projects in Africa last year. We benefit from an influx of foreign direct investment from various countries like the United Arab Emirates, the UK, South Africa, Japan, Germany, to mention a few. We have quite a liberal trade and foreign exchange regime. The government welcomes foreign direct investment, and investors actually benefit from some incentives, including tax exemptions, allocation of land. We have special economic zones or free zones, and we have access to a one-stop center that is designated to facilitate investment. So at this center, there are services that are available to foreign investors, such as company registration, high-level investment advice, and this is all aimed to help streamline the process for foreign investors. On the legislative front, Uganda's parliament has made various amendments to existing laws in a bid to improve anti-money laundering measures and combat the financing of terrorism. And this has led to Uganda's removal from the Financial Action Task Force grey list in February this year.
Interesting. So you kind of started to talk about the law. So let me just move to legal considerations, Rachel, and ask you, what are some of the key legal issues that businesses operating in Uganda or looking to operate in Uganda must consider at this time?
Yes, so businesses operating in Uganda or looking to operate should be aware of several key legal considerations. Uganda is quite an easy country to operate in. Our laws are very clear. But what an investor or a business would need to look at and ensure is that they are complying with the local labor laws, the tax regulations, of course, licensing requirements, and corporate governance standards. It would also be essential to understand land ownership laws, especially for businesses in agriculture and real estate. And finally, perhaps I would mention the need to adhere to anti-corruption and anti-bribery laws.
Interesting. So, Rachel, earlier on, when you were talking about the economic landscape and trends, you mentioned telecoms. Let me zero in on technology and innovation and ask how technology is currently shaping the business landscape in Uganda.
Thank you, David. Like with the rest of the world, there's been significant growth in technology and innovation over the past few years. There's the rise of mobile banking and fintech solutions, which has enhanced financial inclusion, enabling more people to access financial services. E-commerce is also growing, with businesses leveraging online platforms to reach wider markets. We also have a number of tech startups that are driving innovation in various sectors like agriculture, transport, health, and education. We've seen an increase in investment and financing of electric mobility, such as bicycles, motorbikes, and vehicles. Now, I cannot talk about technology in Uganda without mentioning mobile money. There's a rapid increase in the use of mobile money services in Uganda. And we've seen data that shows that 23% of Ugandans save through mobile money.
Oh,
and
wow.
this is compared to 11% using the traditional banks. So
Wow.
that's double. Can you imagine
Yes.
that? So there is, of course, still a random 60% that's relying on informal methods.
Yeah.
But mobile money, you can see, is really vital and has become an alternative to traditional bank accounts, particularly in rural areas where only 6.6% of residents have bank accounts.
That's impressive. Uganda is doing big things in technology and innovation and fintech. How about
Yes, and
sustainable?
so
Sorry, go ahead, please.
continue there.
Go-
So it is very popular, and this popularity led to the enactment of the National Payment Systems Act, which was passed
Oh,
in 2020, under which our central bank was appointed as the regulator of mobile money and other payment services. Because prior to that, there was all this money being moved around the country, as you can imagine, with no
yep.
regulation. And on the
Interesting.
public sector side, the government of Uganda has allocated a significant amount of money in the current budget to advance ICT and digital transformation through several key initiatives, like expanding internet connectivity and digital infrastructure. And of course, things like strengthening cybersecurity, data protection, and the like.
Yep.
Thank you.
So let's move quickly from technology and innovation to sustainability and ESG, which is all the rage in all countries, practically all countries now. How are businesses in Uganda, Rachel, approaching sustainability and ESG issues currently?
So really many domestic businesses in Uganda have not yet implemented ESG practices. And this is largely due to the absence of a binding framework and also the perception that ESG principles are costly and that they don't enhance profit margins. At some point, there were many that felt that this is not a Uganda or even an Africa problem, especially on the environmental side. However, there is now growing recognition of the importance of ESG, and this is largely driven by global pressure from responsible business practices, particularly among companies seeking investment and financing from foreign entities. But even locally, some sectors have started to put in place guidelines to encourage ESG practices. For instance, in June this year, the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Uganda launched the ESG framework for Uganda's banking sector. And this framework, among other things, aims to guide the Uganda Bankers Association members in integrating environmental and social risk issues into their strategic objectives at the board level. In addition, the Ministry of Finance, again working with Bank of Uganda, are developing green finance guidelines for banks and SMEs. So it's early days, David, but there's definitely a drive towards increasing awareness and making it attractive for businesses to implement these practices.
Fascinating stuff, Rachel. How about I now ask you to look in your crystal ball and tell us what you see as the future trends for business and businesses in Uganda?
Crystal ball indeed. I will say that digital transformation will continue to drive innovation and efficiency across various sectors. We expect to see an increased focus on sustainable practices and ESG compliance, like we've just talked about. Additionally, sectors like renewable energy, electric mobility, agriculture, and technology are expected to attract significant investments. Indeed, in our budget speech that I mentioned earlier, our current budget 2024-25, these are the sectors in which Uganda's growth strategy for the next financial year and in the medium term are anchored. And the four key growth drivers have stated to be: 1, agro-industrialization; 2, tourism development; 3, mineral development, which includes oil and gas; and the fourth one is science, technology, and innovation. these anchor sectors are projected to propel Uganda to a $500 billion economy in the next 15 years. So, David, those are definitely the key ones to keep an eye on.
Thanks, Rachel. And that's it, Rachel. Thank you so very much for spending this time with us on this very interesting conversation.
Thank you, David. It was a great pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, thank you. And listeners, that was the whistle-stop tour of Uganda we promised you. We hope that it was as exciting for you as it's been for us. See you on another episode of the podcast soon. Bye now.